Welcome to Living Well and Getting Better with Ann Beal. This is Christmas time and it's the holiday season. If you have a desire to give and you haven't done it yet before the end of the year, consider this charity, this ministry. It is one of the best you can give to. Three members of my family have been to Nigeria to serve with Peter Fretheim, who is our guest today. They went to serve over there in his many ministries, orphanages, women's home, just so many things with his whole family. He has 5 children. And Peter has one of the best hearts, and his ministry impacts all of Jos in Nigeria, in my opinion. I have the link on the Facebook page if you would like to give. I have Peter Fretheim here to talk to us today about the last 20 years serving over there in his wonderful ministry in Nigeria. Welcome to the show, Peter.
Hey, Ann, great to hear from you, and so glad to be with you today.
Well, I am excited too. I know it was hard to organize because you go back and forth to Africa and here, and you're not, I'm so glad you're here in the Dallas area right now, right?
Yeah, so what happened was we've been over there for 21 years, and we used to come back at first once every 3 years, then once every 2 years, but all our kids are grown now, if you can believe that, and they're all here. So now we come back a couple of times a year for short visits, and it's great to be back.
Well, and Peter, I've known you since college.
Yes.
Robert went to Pepperdine with you, and we were all over there. Yep. We had a lot of fun. You actually got a business major and played on the beach with us as well.
Yeah, if anyone knows about Pepperdine University, it's hard to study. There's a lot of distractions. But actually, it was at Pepperdine I had gotten saved and come to know about Jesus in high school through Young Life. And then when I went to Pepperdine, there were some Christians there that took me to Mexico to some of the orphanages, and I was really broken for some of these needy children right there in Mexico. So it was quite a contrast. My upbringing, grew up in a home. My dad was a multi-millionaire, and then being at Pepperdine, and then going to Mexico and seeing the poverty, and then seeing these precious orphans. It was at that time that God really broke my heart for orphans. And then I thought I would be like a rich businessman and give money to the orphans. And then later, when I was working in New York City in my mid-20s, I just felt like God wanted me to go and give my life for the precious ones. So that's how we got over there.
Isn't that amazing? Now, we want the rich businessmen to give if they can, but you actually, I know that you had a wonderful house in Greenwich Village. You grew up with quite a bit of money. You had a ski jump in your backyard, and you just had an incredible experience as a child, but you left all that behind and came to Word of Life and then Dallas Theological Seminary and decided, did you possibly imagine that you would decide to actually go and start orphanages yourself when you were in Mexico in college?
No way. I still thought I was going to, take over my dad's businesses. And he was, we had thoroughbred race horses, like 70 horses, and used to fly to horse races in the helicopter and, on this crazy show called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous and all these things. So I thought, I'm just going to give away a lot of money. But then as I got older, I felt like I didn't want to go that way. And you're right. It's actually a lot of business people that have been able to help us build orphanages and care for so many needy ones. But it was just that God had something different for me. So I'm glad that I listened to his prompting and his voice to do this. And, we don't own much like when I was growing up. But life is awesome, and it's an adventure living with Jesus, and it's so much better than having all of that money and all those material things.
It's crazy how much better it is, but you have to experience it to know it. I think that it just sounds, Nigeria and Josh, people go over there and Josh, and it's really hard. It's a hard life there. And yet you and Miriam and your 5 children have been so blessed.
Yeah, that's really true. And, it's hard, and there are some hard things there. It's hard to see the poverty, and we don't have a lot of the, things we used to love here. And there's no malls and movie theaters and McDonald's, and, you can't get really a newspaper. The internet connection's not good. But you have these wonderful, precious people and great relationships. And then for us, being in God's will. So that was God's will for us. Each person needs to spend time with God and get to know Him, and then ask Him, why did you make me? What is my purpose? And then God will lead them in their adventure. So for us, our adventure is Nigeria. So even though there's so many hard things, most of the time it feels really easy to be there for us. Like, we love the people. We love Nigeria. And for us, we wish we could be there another 21 years.
Wow. It has really been a blessing to you then. You have been such a blessing there. I wanted you to share, because there's so many things that the City Ministries does with SIM over there, and I don't know if I know it all. So if you could just share all the ministries, and I know that Genesis Farms is one of them, and you produce lots and lots of food, but if you could just share.
Yeah, well, there's actually so many things. I'm not even sure if I know them all. So I'll tell you in general what we do. So we're trying to follow the example of Jesus. So 3 different times when He sent out His disciples, He said, preach the gospel and heal the sick. So we're doing lots of gospel, lots of church planting and church strengthening and Bibles and tracts and follow-up materials. And then we're also doing a lot of heal the sick. So orphans and street children and widows and abused women and the blind, deaf, and disabled. And we're also taking care of refugees from the terrorists. Unfortunately, we have this terrorist group called Boko Haram. It's been listed as the deadliest terrorist organization in the world. We actually have what has been listed as the 1st and 4th deadliest terrorist organizations in the world. Number 1's Boko Haram, then ISIS, then Al-Shabaab, which is over in Somalia, East Africa, and then we have the Fulani herdsmen that have been listed as the 4th deadliest terrorist organization in the world. And so, unfortunately, because of that, they kill people, they burn churches, they do terrible things. But we're ministering to the refugees. And so, if we're just preaching the gospel, if we're just saying, this is what the Bible says, and we're not taking care of physical needs, then we're not balanced and we're not following the example of Jesus. Or if we just take care of physical needs and we don't bring the gospel, we're not balanced. So we're trying to follow the example of Jesus, where we're preaching and church planting and strengthening, but then we're always looking to take care of the needs of the needy ones and bless them and make friends with them and protect them. We're also doing a lot of advocacy. We use lawyers and human rights lawyers and others to advocate for those who have trouble advocating for themselves.
Like the girl that was being held by Boko Haram, and you guys helped free her, right?
So we were not able to free her, but there was a girl 2 years ago. Her name is Leah Sharibu, and she was taken by the Boko Haram terrorists up in northeastern Nigeria. And they came in on a February day and with guns and all these terrible things. And then they took 110 schoolgirls captive. Wow. Part of the reason that they do this is Boko Haram means against education or against Western education. They don't want people to be educated. They want them to stay in their ignorance. And so they attack schools, and in particular, sometimes schoolgirls. You might have heard about 4 years ago, they attacked a place called Chibok, which was also in northeastern Nigeria, where they captured 276 girls. But in this case, it was called Dapchi in Yobe State. And they came and they took 110 girls, and then they had them for some weeks. And 5 of the girls died from being smothered, suffocated while they were traveling. And then they returned 104 girls, and 1 girl they would not return, and that was Leah, because she would not become a Muslim. And they said, you need to convert and renounce Jesus and Christianity. And she said no, she wouldn't do that. And she was only 14 years old at the time. If you can imagine how brave she was. She's still in captivity. Recently, there was another proof of life. So she's alive and she's in captivity. But imagine this young girl, 14 years old, now 16, because she's been in captivity for 2 years, standing up to this whole terrorist organization and saying, no, I won't just convert. No, I just won't renounce Jesus. So she's my hero.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened was I was so impacted by her life. I just sat there and said, Lord, what would I have done if all I had to do was say I'm becoming a Muslim? What would I have done? And so I started making some phone calls and I found out that my mission is called SIM. That started a denomination in Nigeria. She's actually a part of that denomination. So I called the president of the denomination and I said, what are we doing for this girl and her family? And he said, I'll call you back and let you know. And he said, we're not doing much. Let's do it. And so we started to support the family. We started to put pressure on the government in order to try and help get her released. And there's a lot of awareness about her. Unfortunately, still in captivity, but she's a real hero. She's one of my heroes.
Wow, that's incredible. So you have actual businessmen, lawyers. I know Robert is a lawyer and his wife Cheryl is a school teacher. People come from all different business backgrounds to come over there and help you. And businessmen give to help you do all these kinds of things. How in the world do you keep them safe when they come over? Because it just sounds from over here like it's so dangerous here, and yet so many people go over there and they say they never felt scared.
That's right, and you know it is far away, and you know it takes a while to get over there. But we don't go to those really dangerous parts of Nigeria. So that's the northeastern part, unfortunately, where the terrorists are. They've been really marginalized, and so they're way up into the northeast. So we don't go there. We also don't go to the southern parts near the oil, where some people get kidnapped. So we're staying in the central part of the country, and you know, we feel safe and we feel like the Lord is protecting us. But actually, it's so interesting because this is something that so many people ask us, and you can understand why they would. Like,
yes.
We brought up our kids in Nigeria, and we're still over there, and then people say, you know, why do you do that? And isn't it really dangerous? And so what we say is that, you know, we use our brains. We don't travel at night. We don't do things that we think would be dangerous, but we put ourselves in God's hands. But actually, Christianity is not safe. It's not supposed to be safe. And I can understand why people would say, is it safe? But truthfully, it's not safe. But, you know, Jesus wasn't safe, and the disciples weren't safe. And so our goal shouldn't really be safe. It should be to be with Jesus and to spend time with him and be led by him into this adventure. And if I'm safe, great. And if I die, I hate to say that, like it was crazy, but then that's for the glory of the Lord, and that's awesome. So it's like, it's what his will is. It's actually not being safe.
Well, you know, our daughter went there right before college, right after high school. And it was quite an adventure for her. And it was, you know, for her, it was just so different. She got to stay with the orphans in the compound and go to the AIDS home with the women and go out in the bush, and they swam in the river. And she said there were baboons everywhere and they were taking their lunches. And she had such a great experience. And yet it was like, you know, for her, she never experienced such a thing. And it was a little hard, but to this day, that was her favorite place to go of all the places that she's been. And that is unbelievable.
And she did a super job. And she, you know, you can come over and have an impact as a teenager or as an older person or even as a child. We've had several families come and bring their kids. So it's a blessing if you just, you know, and you could be like super skilled or have no skills, just coming over and loving orphans and being kind to people. And what happens is they know that these people have come from far away. And so as you're just, you know, touching them like Jesus, you know, touched the leper, put a hand on their shoulder and caring about people and listening to their stories, but also sharing our own stories because they're so interested in that. And then praying for people or kicking a soccer ball with people. These are ways that you can minister around. And it's the same in Mexico, where I first went. It's the same in Nigeria. But it's even the same in the U.S., and, you know, showing some kindness to people. And it's kind of crazy. I like going to restaurants and other places, and I'm nice to people.
Hey, Peter, we have to take a break right now. And
go ahead.
when we come back, we want to talk about Genesis Farms. So just hold on. We'll be right back. Stay here. Hey, Pete, you there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so he's getting everything ready.
Great.
This is the greatest way. That way he can, the reason I came on in the station is he can get it ready for the show.
Sorry.
Saturday.
That's
What you
awesome.
need? Yes? What you need?
Okay, so this goes from 24 to 30.
So that's 6
minutes.
Okay, yeah, this segment, Peter, is 6 minutes, okay?
Okay.
And then after that, we have another like 15 and another 5, just so you know. But I'll tell you each time, okay?
Great.
Now, right now, for this segment that's short, what's the best thing to talk about, you think, for 5, 6
Whatever
minutes?
you want.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever you want.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to ask you. Well, the farm will take a while. Won't it? Talking about how you train people in farming and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, we'll talk about it, but it won't take that long.
Oh, okay. So why don't we go to the farm? And when you talk about healing the sick, you also talk about feeding them and nutrition, right? So by growing this
Right.
food. Okay, great.
Exactly.
All right, that's what I want to know.
You know, life on the farm is kind of laid back.
That's John David.
That's a great radio voice right there.
That is JD, John David
Thanks,
Wells.
He's got it.
Okay, yeah, we're ready.
You can't develop that thing.
Yes, as a matter of fact, you can. That's how I got it. All right, so
Yeah.
we're going to go. Anne's going to take the lead, and I'm going to count her down right now. Here we go.
We are back with Peter Fretheim from SIM Ministries in Nigeria and City Ministries that he does there, telling us all about all the ministries there. And if you have not given yet, we just want to encourage you to do that. We have the link on the Facebook. I'll let Peter share it in detail. Peter, welcome back.
Thanks so much. Great to be with you.
So can you share with us about the Genesis Farms project that you have, besides the orphans and all the things you do? This is all part of that.
Yeah, so what happened is we take care of a lot of people that have trouble feeding themselves. And so we realized early on that we had to do something to help produce a lot of food. And when possible, also help people be able to farm and take care of themselves. So this is the time of year when we buy grains in bulk. And then we also produce, and we have multiple farms, just as you mentioned. And so what happened was early on, I got this guy, a farmer from Denmark. He had been in Nigeria for 30 years, and we started developing some different things in greenhouses and fish farm and pork and a number of other things. And so that's what we were doing is we were producing food. We would sell it to some of the big hotels, but then we had a lot of the food for the orphans and widows and others that couldn't feed themselves. And then we also were able to train many people in how to do farming. So we're still doing that now. We have multiple farms, and some have different kinds of grains or vegetables or animals. And then now we're not selling these days to the hotels, but we're providing for the ones in need, and we're providing training for them so that they can be able to take care of themselves. So food is one of the biggest ones, Anne, because a lot of these people, like the refugees from the Northeast, abused women, some that have come out of sexual trafficking, and others, they're just trying to take care of their children, and they're trying to get well emotionally, physically, spiritually. And and many of the street kids and orphans, they actually cannot feed themselves. So we have to provide so much food. But for the able-bodied ones that are willing, we're able to give them some training through some of the Westerners and the amazing Nigerians we have, and then they're able to go and then often take care of themselves on the feeding side. So that's awesome part of the ministry.
When Katie went there, you had about 400 orphans that you took care of. I know that was, 8 years ago. So how many now, you think?
Well, we still have about that many full-time, and then we've had many that graduate, and then we have many part-time. So the way that it works is some live in one of our dozen centers full-time, and we have like house parents, like aunts and uncles that take care of them. So it's like a family situation. We try and make it as much of a family situation as possible, and then we try and graduate them. So we're training them about the Bible and about Jesus and about life, and we're giving them an education. First, they have to learn how to read and write and speak English, and then they're getting an education, and then we're helping them transition where they're on their own, living somewhere in the church, members of a church, and then they're working. And so we also have some hundreds now that have graduated, and then about the same number with us full-time. And then we have about 12 or 1,300 needy children part-time that we're helping in one way or another.
And the farms really help with that. Tell me how your farms have evolved. We have about...
So they've evolved because we do more of them now. So wherever we have a center or the refugees, we try and help develop a farm together with them. So now we have multiple farms. Before we had one big farm, and now we have 7 farms. And so we're doing multiple feeding, both crop and animal initiatives.
And I know that you found out a lot of better ways. Like I know you have greenhouses now as well.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. And so we've done greenhouses, and sometimes some of those things were too complicated for some of the average people. So we've made it in a way where people can be doing it even if they don't have a lot of education. Some of those things it took like the Western farmer who had been here for 30 years to really run. So we've been able to make it where it's much more simplified for people, and it works well.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm amazed how you've come so far and things have evolved over time. In 21 years, you've learned a lot. I have to say that one of my favorite books I ever read was the autobiography of George Muller, and his orphanages all over Bristol, England, and God answering prayer and providing for him. So I'm just amazed when I hear you talk about, and I knew you back when, and so I know Pepperdine was so blown away. They gave you the Waves Award. What did they call that? The Spirit of...
Yeah, the Waves of Service Award. That was awesome. That was kind of crazy, speaking in front of hundreds and hundreds of donors, and that was a great honor.
Oh, okay. Well, he's telling me we only have 30 seconds, so we'll count down. We'll be right back. So I just am so excited that, when Pepperdine gave you that award, I was so impressed. And you definitely deserved it. Your business, yeah, you were too. Okay, well, stay right here. I want to talk more about that when we get back.
Okay, awesome. Thanks a lot.
The clock goes backwards. Okay, I won't look at the clock. It was good last time.
This microphone, this one. Okay. This one's going to be 15 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay. 15.
So am I just going to ignore that? The clock? Do I ignore the clock?
Just ignore the clock.
Okay, I'll ignore the clock.
Yeah, ignore the clock.
Okay.
Next time we do this, you'll be able to use the clock.
Okay, not this time. Hey, Peter, you there?
Yep.
Okay. The clock in front of me wasn't he was signaling me a lot because the clock in front of me wasn't right. So he told me not to look
No
at the
problem.
clock. So we have 15 minutes and 30 seconds.
Great.
So I want
Excellent.
to talk to you about your business major and how it's actually affected
Yes.
you instead of.
Sure, that's good.
So, okay, cool. Do you want me to start?
If you're ready, we can go.
Okay. Welcome back. Peter, you're going to count me down.
We have to do the countdown,
You
Ann.
do it different than Christy.
It's
That's
a
cool.
union thing.
It is. Oh. Welcome back. I have Peter Fretheim with Sims Ministry. Peter, I know that you have said that you run your ministry more like a business because you're a great business major from Pepperdine. You run it more like a business and a ministry?
Yeah, well, definitely, I mean, both. But my dad was a successful businessman, so I learned business and then came and studied business at Pepperdine. So when I came over, I started doing things a little bit differently and had lots of business supporters and then did run things kind of like a business over there and did things like, we're able to develop those farms, also start a number of small businesses. And then running things as a business has really helped us. So to stay organized and on top of things. So I'm so grateful for my upbringing and then also for my time at Pepperdine. It was really, really great training.
And part of that Pepperdine major, for that business major, they actually have you run a business as part of the program, right? You run a business and you keep up with the profits and loss and all of that. Did you do that in that program?
Yeah, so there's lots of things like that. There's the business side where you're running business and the technical side of it. And then there was also in our major a lot of public speaking and relating and communicating. So if you want to be good in business, you have to be good from the technical side, but you also have to be with people. And so a lot of times someone's really good on one side or another. And then that's actually the team that we developed over there. I have about 6 really great Westerners, and now we have 126 Nigerians on the payroll, which is, awesome. And but I surround myself. So I'm better on the people side and the speaking side, and I need the technical people near me. So I have accountant types and admin types around me to develop the team.
I would think it'd be hard for you coming out of that business kind of worldview. You already have your Christian worldview and you've got the business worldview. It'd be hard to not run it like a business with all that knowledge that you have.
Yeah, definitely. And, that really, like I said, helps. And so we do things a little bit differently than some of the other missionaries. The other missionaries are awesome. They have their own way of doing things. And we have our way of doing things. But yeah, it's working really well.
Well, it's gotten so big and you've had to train people and you've trained so many people over the last 20 years so that you can step back and be able to just kind of run it and be a prayer warrior for it and not have to be right in the middle doing all the detail like you used to do.
That's right. Nobody has all of the gifts and abilities. So I had to bring people into the team that were good at things that I'm not good at. So, and then the same with, delegating. And over there, the people are so amazing. They just need a little encouragement, a little equipping, and then they flourish and they blossom. So that's just one thing that I did learn in business is you got to build a team, and you need people there that aren't just exactly like you. And then you need to delegate, and you need to empower people and let them move forward. So we have about 24 just incredible national Nigerian leaders that do amazing things and are way more gifted than I am. And so I'm much more of a director in directing on how those things go.
Did Dallas Theological Seminary in everything you learned there, did you learn I mean, is that a lacking side of preparing people for ministry that they don't really talk about running it? I mean, having that business knowledge so that you can run it?
I think for at Dallas Seminary, I learned so much
Yes.
about theology and the Bible. And obviously when you're living there for some years with guys and girls and doing ministry, that's all great training. But certainly at the seminary, they didn't talk about business, and I think building your team and delegating. Those were all things from the business world that, God used in my life. And so all those crazy days of growing up and traveling around and doing all the business stuff, I think paid off for me. God used it in my life.
And I think for me too, being in business before I came to seminary and then working with Dr. Frank Minirth coming out of it and him teaching me how to run a counseling practice and TV shows and all that. I learned the business side from other people. But I've thought, gosh, I'm so glad I have that because so many people that come to work with me don't have that. And so I've wondered about that when I was reading all about what you've done over there. Now, I know that you do a lot of work with homeless and not just homeless children, also adults.
Yeah, so, unfortunately, there's a lot of problems in Nigeria. Unfortunately, there's a lot of disease. There's a lot of unemployment. There's the terrorism. There's tribal fighting. So unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are homeless. And so mostly we're working with street children and other children that are homeless, but there's also adults that are homeless or in some kind of a problem. And so what we try and do is we try and build relationships with them. We do so many urban outreaches and rural outreaches and get to know them. And then we want to invite them in where there's a safe place to live, where they can get some training, where they can get onto their feet, where we can help them get into the local church and get established. And so, unfortunately, there are a lot of problems there. It makes more opportunity to help people. I wish they didn't have those problems, but we're able to help.
That's wonderful. What can people do right now that want to give, want to help? What are some of the best ways they can help you in your ministry?
Well, you've heard it before, but the ways you can help me are pray, give, go. You've heard that pray. So for those that believe in prayer, there's power in prayer. You just cannot believe the amazing things God has done and is doing in Nigeria. I mean, miraculous things, and just on and on. And, you talked about George Mueller before.
Oh, gosh,
One of the things with George Mueller was he was desperate for God and needing God to provide. And we're desperate for God and needing him to provide. And when we went 21 years ago, we had 1 month in the bank account, like 1 month's budget in the bank account. And in 21 years, this is faith-based. Besides some small businesses and things that we started, we have to trust individuals and business people and others to provide. And in all those 21 years, we've been able to provide 3 meals a day for all these needy people and education. Over there, you go to school. If you don't pay the school fees because it costs money to go to school there, they kick you out. So the Nationals, are kicked out all the time. None of our children have ever been kicked out of school. We've always had money. We've always had money for medicine and operations. We've always had money to pay our staff. It's a miracle, right? And then when you look at our bank account now, guess how much we have extra in the budget in the bank account right now?
Well, how much?
About a month.
You're a month ahead.
I'm just telling you.
Amazing.
I'm just like a month ahead. So we trust God in 21 years of George Mueller, crazy, amazing blessing.
Yes.
But he does it through individuals. So, but the first one is prayer, because there's power in prayer. And that's how you can minister to thousands and thousands of people over 21 years, and God just work it out somehow. I mean, miraculously. Well, and then the second one is to give. Giving right now this is the time where we have to buy bulk grains for the food to add to what we grow in the farms. It's the cheapest that it is all year. So if anyone wants to help, you can buy a 220 pound huge bag of grains for about $100. So this is the time of year because it doubles in price in a few months. So this is the time. And then the last one is go. We say pray, give, go. Come over and visit us. It's an adventure. It's maybe not totally safe, but it's awesome.
It's awesome. Well, it gives you a little excitement to think about being so brave. I've had people who went to Dominica and they had tribal people that had, those dolls that they were, what do you call those? That they were stabbing with pins.
Oh, yeah, little voodoo dolls.
Yeah, voodoo dolls. And they told them they were going to cast spells on them. And it kind of freaked them out. But then they all prayed and they were signed. And that was like the worst thing that happened. But, it's such an exciting thing to go. And I would encourage you to do that when you can. When is the best time for people if they were going to go?
Really anytime. So for school teachers and people in school, it's going to be like the summer, because there's more time available. But really anytime. We have 2 seasons in Nigeria. We don't have, the 4 seasons like here. We have rainy season for half the year where it rains like sometimes every day. And then we have dry season where it never rains.
Wow.
So, you might come and it might be a little rainy. That's okay. Or it might be kind of dry. But really any time of the year is great.
Well, and you have things for them to do no matter what time of year they come.
That's right. And no matter what their background is and no matter what their skill level is, we have things for anyone to do. And, sometimes people come and let's say they're a computer person. Well, they could teach computers to our staff and to the children. Or maybe they're a medical person. We do a lot of medical. Or maybe they're a school teacher. They can teach. Maybe they like construction. So really, or sports. There's just whatever they're into, there's a place for them.
And I know that the environment, you bring a lot of teams over there. A lot of people come a lot, right? Is it teams of people usually? Like you'd put them with a group, or would they be by themselves, like on the way over?
Yeah, so it's a mixture. So sometimes it's an individual, and then we've had a team as big as 33 people. So it all just depends on what people want to do. Probably the average team is maybe like about 7 people, something like that. But it varies depending on what's good for them and their church or their group or their family.
The kids' sports, I know it's City Sports Ministry. Is that one of your ministries there?
Yeah, that's right, because sports is such an amazing bridge for the gospel, like everywhere. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter if you're educated or not educated. If you bring a soccer ball over there and you come in and you start playing soccer and you care about people, you have an instant ministry. So we do tons of soccer. There's also some volleyball, a little bit of basketball. It's hard because there's very few basketball courts. But the main universal one is soccer, which of course they call football over there, which is a little confusing because, I guess it is football, but it's different.
Yeah, because you're kicking it with your foot. It would be football. Yes.
Right. But football to us is what I just watched yesterday, which is pretty awesome.
Oh, yes, except we lost. Cowboys so lost. That was so sad. The Eagles won. My family was all
I'm a Giants fan.
Yeah.
I'm a Giants fan, married to a Cowboy
Giants.
fan, so it's rough.
Yeah. Did the Giants win? I don't know.
They did, but they're terrible.
Oh,
you know what I mean? They're terrible. The Cowboys
terrible.
are way better. They're just underachieving, unfortunately.
They are very underachieving this year. They had lots of, I had a guy yesterday. He said, come on over. I'm going to burn the Cowboys flag. I'm like, what?
No, not yet. They'll turn it around. They're so gifted.
Him.
They'll get a little different, tweak the leadership and watch and see what happens.
That's what I was saying. Don't give up. Don't give up. Well, I wanted to share the link, and I know what is the best link for people to find you and give?
Well, so our mission is SIM, so that's S like Sierra, I Indigo, M Mary .org. So if they go to sim.org, and then the project is called City Ministries Nigeria, and it actually has a number. It's 85550, but just by the City Ministries Nigeria, they can find it. And like I said, our huge push now is for bulk grains because we can buy them so cheap. So if anybody does want to help out, $100 buys a huge bag of grains where we're able to feed people that can't feed themselves. So, even considering that would be awesome.
That is wonderful. And it is real easy. They make it really easy there to give. And I just encourage you, when you read the autobiography of George Mueller about his orphanages and his desire to show the world that God answers prayer.
Amen.
He did it through that orphanage. He wanted to start an orphanage and not ask for anything, but just pray. And so it's amazing what happened to see his orphanage just grow and grow and grow. And all these people came, and he had all these workers, and I saw pictures, a video of the orphanages in Bristol. So if you want to really understand about an orphanage and all the things that are required as a ministry and raising orphans and feeding them, that book, the autobiography of George Mueller, is incredible. And they have a new one that they just put together, and they call it Life of Trust, and that's on Amazon. Wow. But Peter should have a book. Peter, you should have a book about all of the stuff that you've done. If you could ever stop long enough, you need a ghostwriter that would just follow you and write, you know.
Yeah, it is. It is. And for the glory of the Lord, it's amazing how many incredible things happen. Well, what happens is, like, one story comes and it's incredible and we're rejoicing in it. And then all of a sudden there's another and another. And then all of a sudden we've lost like 4 stories. So if you do have anyone that's like a writer and wants to come out and hang out with us for some months, there's just so many stories to write.
Wonderful. So stay right here. We'll be right back to hear more about that. I was afraid I ran out of time. I didn't know. I was counting faster. Okay. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. He's counting. So he's not, he runs the station. He's not normally my tech producer. So his signs and the clock, and I'm just a little confused, but I'm so glad to be here to be able to record you. You're
doing great. You're doing awesome. Obviously, this is not your first rodeo.
No. And the station will play this on Saturday. And then it also, I'll play it on Facebook. It's on Facebook right now live, but I will also download it and edit it and put it on everywhere. And but you can also go and get it on Facebook as well. It's the rough version on Facebook, but and then we'll do.
No problem.
This last segment is 5 minutes. And so we're just going to close up. So I want you to share whatever you want to share with the people for the Christmas or whatever you want to do. You going to reset it?
Yeah.
No. Hold on one sec, Pete.
It's actually 5
awesome.
5:50?
5 minutes and 50 seconds.
50? And I don't pay attention to that clock, right?
Don't pay attention.
I'm still going to try that.
Ignore the clock in the window.
So that is 15 minutes. That's not 5 minutes, right? 15 seconds. That's what I meant. 15 seconds. I was thinking it was 5. Okay.
1 minute, 30 seconds, and I missed the 30 seconds. So then I gave you 30 seconds at 15.
Yes, you did.
Right, and then that's 15
That's
seconds.
what threw me off. Okay, so Christy's tried so hard with that she's finally switched to go.
No, 15 seconds.
Thank you.
You learned to use it.
I learned, yeah. Oh, sorry, Pete. It's funny. I can only laugh. It's funny. He's such a nice guy. He's so great for me.
That's awesome.
Well, and I know that you didn't have time to come. If you're ever in town and you have time, you should call us. We'll get you on video, and it'll be awesome. We can have a lot of fun. Okay.
That's awesome.
All right. So I'm going to introduce you, and then I'm going to kind of let you share, and then I'll just kind of interact with you. Okay. All right.
Great.
Peter, I am just so excited about your ministry and all that you've been doing in Nigeria. And I really encourage anyone out there, if you haven't given yet, you still need to give, or you just want to give because it's such an awesome ministry. Please go to the SIM website and simusa.org, give, and go to City Ministries. If you need the number 855-508 or 8550, I think that's it. And just give for Peter Fretheim and his family and their great, wonderful ministry. Peter, thank you so much for being on today. And I just want to give you a chance to fill in whatever you need to say in this last 5 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. So first, awesome being on. And as far as the giving goes, it would go towards like grains and food for those who can't feed themselves. It wouldn't actually go to us. Praise God, we're fully supported because we have business people and others that have been helping us. It's been amazing, the financial support over these years, and hope to be there for a long time to come. A few things I want to say. Nigeria is awesome, and we found this in many places in the world because of people that take, the government and others that aren't doing what they should. people don't have opportunities. The Nigerian people are amazing, and they're people of faith. And we have so many awesome Nigerian friends. It's such a privilege to be there and just help them a little bit, a little encouragement, a little equipping, and they do amazing things. So I want you to know that. Also, what a privilege it is that God is using us there. Like, that's where we're supposed to be. So to the listeners, spend time with God. First, I hope you know Jesus in a personal way. I came to know him in the end of high school through Young Life. He loves you so much. He died on the cross for you in your place. Rose from the grave. He's alive. He's listening right now. Put your faith and trust in him. And maybe you know the Lord, but you're not spending that much time with him. Spend time with him, because as you're connected to God, he can lead you in your adventure. Like, I'm living my adventure with my family in Nigeria. It's amazing, but he has an adventure for you right here, right where you're at. The other thing I'd say is, it's Christmas time, and we're thinking about gift giving, and that's awesome to do that. And let's think about those around us and being kind to them. Like, in my time home, I've only been home 10 days, and I'm just like, I'm naturally kind of friendly anyway. It does come naturally, so it's not that easy for people. It doesn't come natural, but just be nice to people. Like, be kind to people, like at restaurants, and tell them they're doing a really good job, and find ways to encourage people. And then a lot of people go, wow, you're so nice. Why are you so nice? I'm serious. It's like people somehow have stopped being nice. And so just by being nice, you can have a testimony. And then I just say, hey, I just want you to know Jesus loves you. You might have heard that before, but I want you to know he loves you. And because I've already been nice to them, they're like, oh, all right. And so they accept that. And so, time with God, and then looking for ways to encourage those around you. And the Lord has a great adventure and a great ministry for you. So you can be involved in Nigeria as you pray. We need your prayers. If you want to give, if you want to come and visit us, but you also have your own special adventure with Jesus right here.
That is wonderful. And I think letting them know all the things that they can do, really to just put Christ back in Christmas, to enjoy themselves in a different kind of way. Because I know for you, the life you had over here growing up and at Pepperdine and afterwards, I mean, you experienced all the good things in life, you thought, until you went into ministry and went over to Nigeria and have experienced this life over there. And I know you love it so much that you have a hard time staying here. You constantly go back.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Because, see, it's so interesting that people that don't have a lot of money think that money brings happiness. Money, you need money to live. It's a tool, right? And we need to be generous and give it away. But money does not bring happiness. It brings fun, but it's not lasting. It's not tending to our souls and our spirit. And so it's about Jesus. It's about spending time with him. It's about being led into the job and the ministry and the relationships he has for us, because he knows how he made us. And see, then that's what brings fulfillment. And then if you're blessed financially, then you're being super generous, and because then it doesn't bring that longing and that satisfaction that only Jesus does.
And I just, I'm so glad you said all that, because my show, Getting Better, is all about helping you get better and understand that it's not money that makes you better. It's all the wonderful things in life that God has to give you. Yeah. And it isn't the success that you think of. Those people are not the people I have on. The successful people I have on are the people that have found that secret to life, have that incredible joy and a full life, and they're happy.
Amen.
And that would be you,
Amen
Peter.
To that. Well, amen to that. Thank you so much, Ann.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for sharing. And I just wish a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to your family, your whole family, and all your kids. I can't believe they're grown. It's just amazing. They have jobs here in Dallas, and they're just doing so wonderful. So you just take wonderful care, and thank you for blessing us today. And we just asked again, simusa.org/give, and Peter Fretheim City Ministries. We want you to give it to them, 85505. Take care. We'll see you next week. And remember, keep getting better. There, Pete. Hey, Pete. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Hey, you're awesome. You're expert. And tell the radio voice dude that I appreciate him. He's great.
John David Wells, I sure will. He's
it's
laughing.
It's a pleasure, man. Thanks very much for showing up, and nice job today.
Yeah. Seriously, you guys are doing great.
Thanks, man.
So keep up the great work and have a great Christmas.
You too. God bless.
Thank you, Peter. You take care. We'll
All
talk
right,
soon.
blessings. Love you, Ann.
All
Take
right.
care.
Love you. Bye
All
bye.
right, bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Merry Christmas. And Happy New Year. Remember, keep getting better.